It's another evening on my Media Prime TV with Prime R, and I am the host, Kum Leonard. This evening we're going to be looking at the possible implications and impact of traditional and religious authorities with respect to elections. We're going to be looking at what role they are going to be playing for this year's presidential election. Are they to be seen as mediators or genuine voices, or are there to play the tool role for political elites? What is your perspective? Should they even be in political issues at all as a traditional ruler or as a religious ruler? We are going to be discussing this with my panelists who are with me in the studio tonight. We have Dr. Michael Ndimancho, who is a lecturer with some universities in Cameroon, and also a key member of our civil society. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Mr. Kum, and good evening to the people of Noni in Bui Division, peace-loving people, and good evening to all the civil society activists who have remained true to their name and to their activism, calling on all those who have derailed to come back to the fold. Good evening to all Cameroonians who are actually ready and gunning towards the elections in October, that the time is almost here. The song we have sung for so long a time, now it is a time for us to dance that tune, and that tune now will be on the 12th of October. All of us will march in dancing to the polls to vote for our favorite candidates. And I pray that it may be objectivity. Good evening, Mr. Kum.
Prince Joel Mukage is also part of tonight's edition of the program. Good evening, Prince. We're glad to have you.
Good evening to you, Mr. Liu, and of course, good evening to Dr. Ndimancho and co-panelists. Good evening to all those who are watching my Media Prime within Cameroon and without Cameroon, as usual. Special good evening to the peace-loving people of Miss J subdivision. Is the land of milk and honey. Each day it's dying out, Mr. Liu, and October 12th is closest. So we will, as usual, commit our own civic responsibility, which is that of voting, come the 12th of October. It's very true that many Cameroonians, like we were discussing yesterday, something that because this person is not there or that person is not there, they may not cast their votes come October 12th. There are others who think that if the different opposition political parties do not come together as one man, they may not also cast their votes. But the ball is in your court. Mr. Leo, an interesting topic you have this evening, and I pray that in the course of the program, I'll be giving my own modest contribution in this topic today.
Okay, we also have Tamai Jarvis, who will be contributing to tonight's topic for the day. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. Good evening to Dr. Michael Ndimancho, author of several books. Good evening to Prince Joel. And of course, good evening to those who are ready to cast their ballot for 2025 presidential elections. To the different candidates who are preparing. It is a moment for us to look at the interests of Cameroon, that whatever happens, Cameroon remains Cameroon. And let us say no to violence and understand that whichever result we have, let us start preparing for the next election, which is municipal and legislative election, because that is when a lot of changes will come within the country, not just at the level of presidential elections. So the youth that are disgruntled, it is a moment where you have to prepare yourself and see how you can represent your respective municipality in 2026. Use this 2025 as a learning process for presidential election and political rigmarolling. Good evening to the Bishop of Boya and the bishops who are meeting in Bamenda for the Bamenda Ecclesiastic Province under BAPEC. And of course, good evening to those traditional rulers at their different municipalities and villages who are trying their best to see how they remain and they protect our sacredness of our custom and tradition, as it is said that a child does not point the father's house with the left hand. However, politics is giving us a different interpretation.
Okay, Dr. Michael Ndimancho, let's look at our traditional and religious authorities. We've seen what they have been doing in these past years. And the question I first ask you is, should traditional and religious rulers stay neutral in politics, or do they have a moral duty to guide their respective communities?
Well, saying neutral doesn't mean that they do not have any function in a society. When we say neutral, let's put it in perspective. They should be neutral to politics. Yes, but we know that traditional and religious authorities have a preponderant role to play as far as democracy is concerned, as far as the advancement of a country, development and as a whole is concerned. We know that these people are key persons in fostering peaceful environment. You know, when we cannot talk about peace in a country without talking about traditional and religious authority, because these are the people who are closer to the people more than even the state, even the president of the republic. And we think that they are there to promote what we call the moral guidance in the society. So they have a lot of rules to play. They encourage, I mean, even in terms of election, we usually say that they are not supposed to say neutral because they need to encourage voter education. Yeah, because this is one of the rules that they have to do. Encourage the people to come out massively and vote for their desired candidate. The problem comes from when they start being partisan to some of those things. And that's why we talk about neutrality. That they have to be neutral in terms of choosing which candidates they are Christians or what their subjects are supposed to vote. If not, I think that there's one role that I have not seen them play during this period, at least during this political period, and is that role of the dialogue, promoting dialogue between the opposition parties. This is a very, very important role that they are supposed to play. Remember that these opposition parties too are Christians, and they are also subjects under chiefs and kings and all of those. And we always saw these leaders going to the presidency maybe to talk with the representative of the head of state, who is the minister, Secretary General at the presidency. But we have had a lot of troubles within the opposition that we thought that the chiefs, it is also their role. Imagine that these opposition leaders, they come from particular villages. We have not seen chiefs call people who come from some villages or opposition leaders who come to us and say, Master, why are you people angry? Can you not come together? Because we say that the chief, like a phone in my village, is like the center of everything. He receives everyone, be it the good one, be it from the right, left, or from the left or from the right, or what. He received everyone. And there is a saying actually that in my village that if you are running, whoever you are, even if you are a thief, immediately you get into the arena of the palace, you are saved, because the king or the fawn does not know any blood, and the fawn welcomes everybody. And when you are in his arms and in his arena, you are saved. And therefore the fawn or the chief is supposed to welcome every development wherever it comes from, be it from the CPDM, from the SDF, from all other parties. And therefore, if there are these squabbles, I think that we have association of fawns. I mean, like in the Northwest, they have an association, the West they have, and all of other regions they have. It was incumbent on them to also be able to gather these opposition leaders. We have seen what has happened in the near past, where we have a lot of insults, counter insults and insult and whatsoever. I think it's the role of the chiefs and the traditional rulers to be able to call them together. It is also the role of the religious leaders to invite the opposition leaders even for prayers. They need prayers. They are also Christians. Remember that these are also Christians, and that anything that is happening amongst his Christians, be the opposition leaders or be the who that is doesn't go well or doesn't, call for appreciation from them, they are supposed to call them together in circles of prayer and pray for them. But then this doesn't translate to mean that they are partial in what they are doing. This translates to mean that they are like the moral authority that we have, that they are there to instill dialogue, to instill morality, to foster peace, to foster development in the country, and development. We use politics as a vehicle to leverage for economic development. It is very, very important. And therefore, when they stay aloof in these, it means as if they are nonchalant about the kind of development or the kind of contribution that this opposition brings to it. But it is wrong, when they provenly and openly show that, okay, what happens to the opposition is not their business. And this is exactly what we have seen this period, because we have not seen that romance with the opposition, and we are beginning to think that the opposition is coming to personal non grata to the chiefs and the religious leaders, who of course are supposed to be like the moral fathers, the spiritual fathers of all of these in the society in Cameroon.
What is your thoughts on this, Prince? Should we see them play active role in politicking as traditional and religious authorities?
Traditional rulers are first of all Cameroonians, and normally they have their right to decide where they want to belong to. But where it becomes a taboo to me is when they openly, like Doctor was saying, when a traditional ruler openly confesses that I belong to this political party, or say that we have called on, when you say we the funds of, or we the chiefs of, have called on President Paul Biya to be our candidate, there's a problem.
Or a different candidate.
Or a different candidate, there's a problem. Now the problem is at the level, because, Mr. Leo, where some of us come from, the palace is sacrosanct. It is so pure that you don't play with. And these are places where it's not for nothing that in areas where some of us come from, if you are coming on the same way and meet the phone, you are bound to give the path and let the phone come pass. If you're a woman, you're supposed to bow until the phone passes. That's the law. And if you're entering the palace, your cap is not faced. If you have a face cap, you need to turn it. Now, some of these things tell you that the traditional ruler is someone who is respected. Now, when you come up openly and confess for a political party, because, Mr. Leo, a traditional ruler, like Dr. pointed out, is that person where if you go to a village, if I go to way today and I go ask for Jarvis and they tell me Jarvis is not around, the next person I'm rushing to is the palace. I'll go to the palace and the palace will be able to locate their compound. And even if they don't locate their compound, they'll be able to take care of me before that person who came looking for comes. Now, when you have traditional rulers who openly confess for a political party, there is a big problem. The problem is because within a community, Mr. Leo, our community is porous. It's porous because you have people who come from all walks of life and they identify with all political parties. Now, when a phone already identifies with a political party openly, I've not said they should not have. Of course, phones do vote. But what I'm saying here is, this aspect of openly confessing is not good, because once you do that, someone who is in that same community feels somehow unsafe to come closest to the palace. Why? Because the person starts thinking that he is an enemy to that palace. It's not the case. When you also start doing that, Mr. Leo, in communities where we come from, once there is a kind of a developmental project within the village, I know communities where people come together, they contribute even 1,000 francs and get a new vehicle for their funds. I know communities where the community comes together and build a fantastic structure for their fund. But now, Mr. Leo, and this is done by elite. But now when you have a situation where the traditional ruler has openly confessed that I belong to Leo's party, I belong to Dimancho's party, I belong to Jarvis' party or Joel's party, that's a problem. Once you do that, now, even if we were to do those kind of free will donation, someone who comes from the opposite camp, even if he's giving it as though they tied them on the neck, because it is no longer kind of voluntary. But now, if it were something where the fund doesn't confess, I understand that the political climate as of now, because the argument that I had from some of the funds that I spoke with is the fact that, first of all, the climate, especially in the Northwest and the Southwest, that the political climate is not that serene, and that it was another way of also ensuring that the peace, the relative peace that are enjoying should continue. But I feel that some of those opinions could have been tabled without necessarily openly confessing that we are for A or we are for B. And I'm also saying so because, Mr. Leo, some of us have covered elections in this country and we've noticed situations where funds come up openly and even pour libation in certain communities and say, okay, if you do not vote for A, then this is what's going to happen. So I just feel, Mr. Leo, that the traditional rulers, whom we respect very much, I know what is tradition, and I know that it's something you don't play with. In as much as they are supposed to have a right, because they are first of all citizens before becoming traditional rulers, they are Cameroonians. They have a right to a political party. But my issue remains the aspect.
What about the religious authorities?
The religious authorities, they still another big, in fact, the biggest problem.
Okay.
Yes, theirs to me is the biggest problem. The biggest because a religious community is an area that should serve as an example. not only an example, it is a society. Mr. Leo, if you are the phone of Mr. J, like my phone, His Royal Highness, phone Thomas Kimbose, you have, it's true that you have people from different communities. Okay? But now, there are villages, Mr. Leo, that you go to and have at most 50 new people. But that when you look at the religious authorities that we have, Mr. Leo, some of them have in their church people who come from the 10 regions of the country. Some of them have in their churches people who come from at least 50 subdivisions of this nation. Now, when you come up and say, this is our candidate, we know people who did something like this and succeeded. For instance, may so rest in peace, for Franklin Afanu. He went in for politics, and it was clear, which means that I would have had no problem if he went back to his church and called his militants to cast votes for him. He has openly said, I'm into this game. But now, when you have traditional, rather when you have religious bodies who are supposed to be shepherds, they normally call them shepherds in the Lord's vineyard. Yeah. Now, when you have religious bodies who are supposed to be shepherds in the Lord's vineyard, talking to their Christians, let me tell you, Mr. Liu, I was discussing in one of our village WhatsApp group where somebody dropped something, and they say, if you make amen, you will make 50 days of blessings and things like that. I came and said, this is the African mindset. Mr. Leo, we are living in a society where a woman will disrespect the husband and call the husband Pa Junior, Pa Joel. Who say you there? Because the pastor, daddy, papa. That's the community we are living in. We are living in a community where a woman will staff, or not only women, men. Someone will staff. But these are the same people who gather their last farm produce to take to the church. Now, it means that even if that person is in a community, the person, I'm not saying that the person will minimize what the phone will say, but Mr. Leo, there is a high probability that a majority of those who go to church, and I would not want to use the word brainwashed, but have given in all to their papa. Once their papa says, this is where we are, the people are following without a second thought. Okay, and I think that it is risky.
With knowledge that they must have received divine direction on what to do.
No,
that is a notion. They're believing in Papa because they think that Papa is saying so because he received a revelation. I'm not saying that's what you are saying. It's true. Why do they believe in the Papas?
They believe in you know.
They feel that Papa talks with God. He receives revelation from God. When he says this is the direction.
Mr. Liu, I was listening to one of these preachers, Sound Mind, Benita Jualium, without publicity for Benita Jualium. I was listening to Benita Jualium, and she had one of her records where she said, she said, where are the righteous? You will agree with me, Dr. Nzimancho, that lately, if you look at most of the preachings that our men of God preach is, I see you traveling this year. Some of the things they'll tell you is that I see you getting a husband. If you're a man, it's louder than thunder. You're the one I'm talking to. That's not divine. You understand, Mr. Leo? So I feel that the standard they took to me wasn't too good.
Good evening, sir. I love the program of today. Our Prince Will is watching us from Birmingham. Yes, Tamai Jarvis, let's look at this situation. You work with the church. One clarification we want to make here is that what we are discussing here today has nothing to do with the visit to the presidency of the fonts and the chiefs and the Catholic bishops. No, they went there for something else. We're talking about active politics, and when we talk about active politics, we're talking about partisan politics. So it is unrelated to what happened at the level of the presidency when the chiefs and the fonts and the Catholic bishops went visiting there. But how do we strike the balance to get, because they say he says it's a taboo. He says they should play neutral because their fathers at both ends, because the phone is the father in the village. The religious authority is the father in church.
What where it comes from? When they go, people go and confess their sins even to him.
Yes.
Papa,
how do
Father, I sinned yesterday, pray for me.
How do we, especially with respect to the 2025 presidential elections, we have 13 candidates. How does a religious authority and traditional authority carry themselves so that almost everybody feels that they have a father, either in church or in the village?
It takes a political decision for a priest to celebrate a mass in a clean, peaceful environment. It takes a political decision for a pastor to have a crusade in a peaceful environment. It takes a political decision for Christians or congregants to leave their homes and go to church and back. Because if there is no peace, these congregants will not leave their homes and go peaceful to church, and the man of God will not stand peacefully at the altar preaching and praying to God. For example, if you look at the atmosphere in the northwest and southwest region, we've had moments where masses, services and church services have been abruptly come to an end because of attacks or gun battles on left and right. Because a political decision was not taken to end the conflict in the northwest and southwest region. So the churches in those areas are limping. Let me start from the level of the chiefs. Before the arrival of the modern day states, the chiefs were the ones doing the politicking. Not partisan politics, but politicking, which means that standing against social injustice and providing developmental activities for their communities. Before the arrival of the Germans on the 12th of July 1884, in fact, before the arrival of Emmy Shoes on the 9th of July 1884, the chiefs, Manga Williams, chief of King Bear, King Aqua, Von Galiga, all these chiefs were the ones who were manning their respective territorial integrity. Kuva the Kenyan, you have also the chief of the Bayan, all these chiefs. Now, these were men who were in active politics. In those days, if you represent them, it will sound like the heads of state of their respective, or the governors of their respective communities before the arrival of modern day state. Should they actively take part in politics? Yes, they should actively take part in politics. But what kind of politics are we talking about, or am I talking about? I'm talking about a developmental politics. I'm talking about a politics that strikes the balance against social injustice, but not partisan politics. Remember that in the context now of the conceptual Western state, which we call Cameroon, which we are looking at a government and headed by the president, the chiefs now play what is called an auxiliary role within the nation. They are actually the ones that bridge the gap between the community and the government. In the before we had the 1884, like Lord Lugar came under the policy of indirect rule in his book titled The Dual Mandate of British Tropical Africa, where the chiefs were the one given the power to rule their congregation, their villages, and give feedback to the British government. Now you saw that the chief actually had decisions taken. But now, in the contextual West definition of a state, which they have brought us what is called partisanship, this is where the danger now comes in, because a chief has a civic duty. Let us not forget here, a civic duty to cast his ballot as a chief. But in terms of playing active politics, a chief don't have the mandate of his people to play that active politics, because when a chief is coronated, Dr. Dimancho is well grounded with traditional issues and understands African traditional religion better than I do, and if I'm wrong, he will correct me. When a chief is being conferred in the village, it is the powers of the village. The villagers are giving him their mandate that you are the voice of our village. You are supposed to represent us, and representing us, which means that in that village you have CPDM man who has given you his power. In that village you have SDF man who has given you his power. In that village you have FDC man who has given you his power. In that village you have all the different UPC that have given their powers, that you represent the voice, which means the voice is the developmental voice. That voice is the fight against social injustices. That voice is the voice that you should make sure that they are treated with equity, fairness and accountability, not a partisanship. I may be wrong, but in this case I think I am not wrong, because once you are coronated, once a chief is coronated, the villagers are saying that we have acknowledged you and we have given you our powers. Now if that chief in any way decide now that I want to militate for Dr. Dimancho's party, or I want to give support 100% to Dr. Dimancho's party, he is going against the custodian and the tradition of that coronation and the mandate that was given to the chief. Therefore, the people need to hold that chief accountable, because in no place did the people sit and actually ask the chief to go and represent them by nominating Dr. Dimancho as a flag bearer of a particular political party. No. That is against the custom and tradition, and that is what we call desecration of the culture. Because if you actually participate in active politics, partisan politics, by nominating or endorsing a candidate as a chief, it is better you can say. Let's also not forget that as a chief you have several caps. You have a chief as a Cameroon, you are a Cameroonian first, a citizen, and second, you are, for example, if Prince Joel is a chief of, let's say, in Binka, for example, Prince Joel first is a Cameroonian, second he is Prince, he's Joel. Before he was coronated as chief. So if he has to endorse Dr. Dimancho as member of any political party, he should make a pronouncement clear that I am not endorsing Dr. Dimancho as chief of Binka. I am endorsing Dr. Dimancho as Joel, who has been a friend of Dr. Dimancho. This is not the village that has asked me to give that endorsement to you. But once if Joel comes in now and say that I, as a chief of Binka, or me as a chief, I am endorsing Dr. Dimancho, it means by traditional implication, Joel is saying that upon the mandate bestowed on me by the people of Binka, upon all the powers and the villagers of Binka, they have agreed that I should come because you are the spokesperson of the village number one spokesperson. That is where the problem comes in. And that's why we are saying that in all fairness, traditional rulers are supposed to draw that distinction. If they have to take part in partisan politics, they are supposed to draw the distinction to make pronouncement. For example, Mr. Alo, there are places that you go to and you say, I am making this statement as Kum Leonard and not as journalist of the director of my media power as a journalist. You are making this as Kum Leonard, so that people don't take you out of context. That means that you have actually removed the office, so people should not look you as the office and hold you accountable. And that's the same thing that chiefs are supposed to do. The same thing with religious authorities. They are what we call they form an active role in the civil society. These are guardians and guarantor of social peace and cohesion. And if you have listened time to time, wherever there is a crisis in any nation, the chiefs and the traditional rulers and the religious leaders are the peace breakers, because they serve the voice of everybody. In the context of religious leaders, it is appalling to see that religious leaders who actively take part in partisan politics. Why am I saying it is wrong? I am saying it is wrong because in that context, you are a reverend father for everybody. You are a pastor for everybody. You are a prophetess for everybody. You are that voice, that sense of reason that says that, hey, let us give each individual a chance of fair hearing, which means that you are preaching to everybody. You are a voice for fighting against social injustice. For example, if there is no electricity, we expect the chiefs or the preacher to say that electricity is a problem because everybody is feeling that impact. If the roads are bad, we expect them to say, because the common man cannot be saying everything. They listen to those voices and they can best advise the politicians that, based on the voices that we are listening to and based on the discussion that we talk with people on a regular basis, this is a cry. And you see that is always been reflective of the Catholic bishops. Whenever they have their Episcopal conference, they always come with a letter explaining the current state of social injustice, not political. They always explain the issue about the social, they will talk about the socio-economic, political climate of Cameroon. They will divide it, they will go politically, socially, economically, and culturally, such that it gives a balance sheet. And that's why this evening I am appealing that chiefs who are engaged in active partisan politics should be reminded in the depth of their consciences and their tradition that they are going against the sacredness of that tradition, because the day of coronation, you are coronated as chief of a particular village. And if you choose to endorse a particular candidate, you should make this distinction clear that I am doing this not as a chief, but as Mr. Jarvis. Or if you want to do it as a chief, you need to take permission in your village, Call your village together, everybody, like a coronation, and let they say we endorse Dr. Dimancho. Then we shall say that the village, the gods have spoken, because they are representing the voice of the forefathers. The forefathers may have not individually, may have not loved that political party. You are their voice, the voice of the ancestors. You are their voice, and when you giving that nomination, it means that you are selling your forefathers' voice without their permission. And in all fairness, if it is a democratic process, we can call for impeachment. But since it's tradition, I don't know what Dr. Dimancho will give as remedy on this.
Okay, you don't know what he will give as remedy on this. Good evening to all of you watching the program from different parts of Cameroon and out of Cameroon. Greetings, Mr. Leo. I'm enjoying the program. Kudos. Keep it up. Thank you very much, Nadia. Greetings to all of you in the studio, Mr. Leo, especially my colleague, Prince Joel Mukage. This is Shea Rulan watching from Gaundary. I love the program of today. Thank you very much, Shea Rulan. And to all of you watching us from across Cameroon, keep the messages coming. Good evening. Nkong is writing from Bafusam. Jervis has clearly analyzed the role of chiefs and religious leaders. Keep it up, the good work, Mr. Journalist. Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Some funds and some religious leaders have been robbed in the mud. They respond positively to a partisan political talk. Their presence in such a forum can be interpreted as support to the party, whether they have said so or not. Nkwine Jacob is writing from Bomenda. Greetings to all of you in the studio, Mr. Liu, especially my colleague Prince Joel Mokage. This okay? I read that already. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I am watching from Ezeka town. I enjoy the program and I wish to extend my greetings to Prince Joel from my village. So chief don't not have a party like pastor. Also, just to recall what the bishops say, when the community is happy, also are happy. So to conclude, the chief and pastor are there for everyone. They're supposed to be there for everyone. Now, engaging in active politicking, partisan politics, does it actually work for? Does it strengthen democracy or compromises it?
Of course, it's supposed to. Since we are talking in the context of the chiefs and religious leaders, you have to collect some data from history. You understand that these have actually helped in strengthening democracy because spiritual leaders have used their platform to advocate for peace and equality, social justice, and all of those. If you want to get an example of, first of all, let's look at the context of Mahatma Gandhi, who was a Hindu spiritual leader in India, which is a concept of ahimsa. Ahimsa was that kind of a concept where he called for, non-violent, revendications of the masses. And he was a spiritual leader, and we know who Mahatma Gandhi has come to be today. And we really think that if we take from there, we will know that many other spiritual leaders can sue for peace. That is not all. We know about Martin Luther King, who fought for social equality. Martin Luther King was a Baptist pastor, minister in the United States of America, who took on actually his activism as a politician to fight for social equality in America. And we know what that has come to be today. Americans and the blacks are enjoying today, partly because of the legacy that he left in his activism. That is not all. We can also look at somebody like Dalai Lama of the Tibetan leader, who did a lot in that perspective, where he brought the people together and preached non-violence and let the people know that in social cohesion and all of those without violence, they are going to reach where they are, and we know where they are today. We can even cite a further example. Look at Desmond Tutu of South Africa. Of course, Desmond Tutu actively fought in apartheid. I'm sure that in some countries no leader would dare to mentally put himself on the edge in the issues of appetite. But Desmond Tutu defied all the odds. He went in and actively took a leading role before, during, and even after, when it came to the peace process, he was actively involved. Now, but when we look at crises that we have even had in Cameroon, we have some leaders who are shying away from it because out of fear and all of those. We remember that during the beginning of the crisis around 2017, 2018, and 2019, the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church were taken to court. And that even scared some of the Christian churches and say if they can take the church to court, it means that we are not saved. But at least there are some of them who stood tall. I can remember the moderator of Presbyterian Church at one moment shed tears, among the vision. And I looked at it and I said, but why are they doing this to the church? But this was important because it could also show that the leaders are not only there to preach to the people, they are also to show proof of resilience to the people and let the people know that they don't have to be despaired in the face of difficulty and all. They don't become despondent, and that they have to keep on with their faith and keep on encouraging themselves and keep on gaining strength and courage in the face of all of these difficulties. And therefore, I don't think that when you get into activism as a religious leader, apart from the fact that, as Tamai Javi said, that you want to be a partisan kind of that religious leader who stands and say, no, of course, we have had some preach like that, who have said blatantly that we are going for this, we are going. I don't think that is the rule of the Christian leaders. But then in some cases, you know that when you are given two steps, number 3, you will not take it because all of us are human. And sometimes when you look at the suffering masses, you tend, because they all say that what a real leader is the one who identifies with the masses. A real leader is one who identifies with the lowly of the society, and therefore you cannot see people injustice, people who are blatantly expressing justice, who are supposed to be favored and given their fair share, who are being maltreated, and then you sit, because they usually say that anybody who sits and doesn't act in times of injustices committed on people, in another way you are condoning the injustices that are committed on them. And therefore sometimes you find people, because they are human, they tend to also express their own feelings, human feelings, of course. But I think that in a nutshell, if you look from history, you will see that the religious leaders have played a leading and preponderant role in terms of democratization, in terms of peace building, in terms of national cohesion, in terms of social justice, and all of those. And I think that in Cameroon, that is not supposed to let out. We have had a lot of issues in Cameroon, the Boko Haram, and we think that the Boko Haram, we were supposed to also have religious and traditional leaders who should come out and talk in a concerted voice. I remember sometimes in about 2008, where there is somebody, a prominent member of government who came out and said the Boko Haram, there's no Boko Haram in the north. It is being fabricated by some people or some prominent people of the society, and he was referring maybe to the chiefs and whatsoever. But I think that the chiefs need to talk, because when there are some moments whereby you become the voice of the voiceless as a religious leader. There are some moments where you become the voice of the voiceless as a traditional leader. There are some moments where the subjects are afraid, because, as I say, if go should rust, what will iron do? Because if you stay there and you do not say anything, what do you expect the subject to say? What do you expect your people, the Christians, to say? They expect you as a traditional, you as a spiritual leader. Imagine that you are as a priest, your Christians are going through untold suffering, and you are afraid to come out and talk. The Christians themselves, they know that you are in a better position to talk, because the treatment they will give the priest would be at least lighter than that they can give to the Christian. And I think that the priest or the religious leader, the pastor or whoever, he's always at a comfortable position to talk. We even had an example of how the Anglophone crisis with the SDF. So it was a member of parliament who went to parliament, and then he had to address the parliament. I'm talking about Weber and whatsoever. But because at that moment we are expecting somebody who a kind of immunity, in court, to be able to rise up and talk on behalf of the people. And if the priest doesn't talk on behalf of the people, like the time of election, the priest is supposed to educate, a pastor is supposed to educate, the bishops are supposed to educate, the imams are supposed to educate, the chiefs, the fronts are supposed to educate the people on what that is supposed to entail. If they do not come out to educate and they are waiting for somebody else to come and educate, that person who is coming to educate is coming to bring in his own agenda, because we expect that the education from the religious leader and the chiefs is very important, because we expect that they are neutral, and that when the chief or traditional ruler is educating, he is educating from a neutral point of view. He is just educating people and telling you people, giving you white as it is, white and black. not giving you as it is, either white or black. No, it's giving you as it is, white and black. If you see that black is good for you, you choose it. If it is white, choose it. It is not that who comes and tell you, no, white is better than black, or that black is better than white. This is what we expect from the traditional rulers and the religious leaders. You go to church, sometimes you only find some of the people who take sides, who preach and take sides. They do not actually take the time to educate the Christians that, you see, from the community, we know that the arms have dropped because we know that the things are difficult. I've never heard the priest say that. They keep on complaining that arms have dropped. I've even gone to some parishes where they say they don't want to see coins. They don't want to see Christians put coins in the arms basket. But they keep on blaming the Christians that arms have dropped, arms have dropped. You are not contributing to church construction. But they are forgetting to arrest the real problem. And the real problem is what? That there are difficulty. You know, there are certain things you say passively without actually taking side. You say that there's economic crisis. Christians are going through untold suffering. They hardly have enough food in a day. And because the government, or because there's economic crisis, or because this government or whatsoever is doing it, and they have to look at those basic causes of the difficulties of Christians, and then they address them. In addressing those basic problems of Christians, they are indirectly addressing the problems of the country. That gives the Christian the choice to be able to choose without telling him that this is what you choose or this is what you choose. This is education. This is general education.
Good evening, Deno Claudette watching from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and special greetings to my Mr. J brother. I'm enjoying today's program. Stay blessed. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and to all your panelists. The issue of traditional leaders taking sides in politics is an abomination. That is why most of the chiefs no longer have powers. They have cut the links between them and their ancestors. They are powerless, and that's why most of them use their positions to fight for their personal interests. Only time will determine whether they are chiefs or not. I am Mr. Ambani writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's Dr. B writing from Bamenda. I'm enjoying the program. It's captivating and educative. Thanks to the civil maturity of the panelists. Keep it up, guys. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm listening to your program and I am enjoying the presentation from the panelists. It's very educative. Digmu Timothy writing from Tiko Road, Mutengene. Good evening, Mr. Kum. This is Chuye Stanley watching from Pika Katos. Douala, more courage. I love your program. Thank you. Good evening to you, Mr. Leo. I'm Mr. Pascal from Muya. I love your program this evening. Thank you. Good evening to everyone in the studio. Mr. Leo, I enjoyed the program. Ashu Mason watching from Bamenda Nkwen. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and all in the studio. I want to say a big thank you for bringing up programs like this. It goes a long way in improving the political knowledge of youth. God bless you all. This is Chindo Gilbert, the founder of Chindo's Foundation. Good evening to all of you, especially to the family of Mami Elder and Duba Deborah, who died some days back, and the funeral program is out. We extend our condolences to the Anduba family out there, especially to the maker, one of our colleagues who should be watching us from Boya. Our sincere condolences, the maker. From your observation, what role have the chiefs been playing so far as partisan politics is concerned? And do we have the roles that you observe them play? Is it uniting or dividing our communities?
Mr. Liu, with your permission, let me send greetings to all those who are watching, the Mr. J people have watched, and most particularly to Mr. Molutekwi. He's a teacher, he taught me. He gave one of the comments. And Mr. Molutekwi Ignatius is one of my teachers. Good evening to you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Liu, when you look at the chiefs today and you want to compare with politics before now, you think that something is not going on well.
Okay.
I'll take you back in the 90s. In the early 90s, with the birth of the Social Democratic Front, the SDF, of course, it came at a time when Cameroonians would think that they were suffocating from one party system. That is, they had a single party from 1982, or they had the 1985 rather, because the CPDM was born in 1985. But this was just a transformation from a political party called the CNU that Paul Biya inherited in 1982. But now, when you look at these chiefs who played a part in 1990, the chiefs, of course, had to make choices, either to belong to the CPDM political party or to join the SDF. I want to remember that my grandfather told me a story that at one time when Nijon came for rallies, there were chiefs who moved because they really wanted to see this Messiah who had come to save them. And many a time, the same Nijon would tell the funds, what you're doing is good, but I think that if you go back to the palaces, I'm not ordering you, it will be better that you go back to the palaces and I'll come to the palace for you to give me blessings. That is Nijon fully talking. Now, but when you look at, that is gone. And during that period, the chiefs, I'm not saying the chiefs today because, Mr. Leo, this is a very complex topic, considering where some of us come from and the kind of... No, it's complex. It's complex because when you say something here that the phone has done this, the phone has not done that, the phone will want to think that you're minimizing it's your father. So, But I think that when you look at the context, in the 90s, the funds were thirsty for change. And now that's why they were massively coming out, not only to see what was happening, but they also wanted to partake in the change. But now, when you look at our funds today, Mr. Leo, first of all, I think that one of the issues that may have caused this is when funds started earning salaries. When you put them on a salary, first class, second class, and third class, there's already a problem. There's a problem because the person, normally they will say, he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Where does the salary come from? It comes from somewhere.
Are you saying that all civil servants belong to the ruling party?
I've not said so. I've not said so, Mr. Leo. I'm talking here.
Why should the hands of the funds be tied?
No.
Because they now receive salaries.
No, I'm developing, sir. I'm saying that I said the problem started. I did not say ended. It started when funds started earning salaries. And far from this, it also became at a moment where some powerful elites within the areas, within the different areas in the communities, had to come and, of course, you want to support your son. And now, the funds unconsciously, remember that I said in my introductory statement, Mr. Leo, that the funds are citizens. They are supposed to belong to a political party, but the issue is when you show it openly and give people that you're here. Now, far from that, it also, when funds started having positions within political parties. We remember very well that, may so rest in peace, the Fonangwafo, he was the vice president of the CPDM political party. That was a known position. It means that he has taken a side within the CPDM after Paul Biya is the national president. I am the vice. It tells you that he has a stand. We have people who are within
we have MPs, we have senators.
That's it, who are funds.
We have mayors.
Mayors, and they are under political parties. Now, when you have this kind of a situation, Mr. Leo, it is but normal that when it is campaign period, like campaign is going, you may, of course, do indirect campaigns, but in one way or the other, you will be campaigning because you want to show the person who made you the MP, who facilitated, because you're MP under a political party. You are a mayor under a political party. But now you are a chief. At the same time, you are a mayor in a community. I think that your hands will be tied because you're supposed to, of course, make campaigns for a political party. Another issue is the fact that, Mr. Leo, the funds are also yielding to pressure. We're living in a society where at times for a community, once you are noted within a particular community that you are headstrong, like you are not showing that you are against the ruling party, but you are adamant. You know, when you read, I think, A Man for All Seasons, they'll tell you that the guy was killed, Thomas More. I think Thomas More was killed not because he actually said no or said yes, but he remained silent. And now the judge said your silence shows that you don't want to give your support to the ruling king. Now, when you have some funds within communities who will not openly belong to a political party, but they stay calm, you don't know whether they are for or they are against. And now, when you look at development within this area, it will be relatively. It is true that development should spring all over, but now when you look at developments within these areas, Mr. Liu, it will be relatively not heavier than in areas where funds have openly confessed that this is our president. Where funds have openly confessed that we belong to this political party. Because once you openly confess, of course, we know very well that developmental projects, Mr. Liu, comes through lobbying. You lobby before you get projects. So when you have traditional rulers who stay aloof, who say, okay, we don't want to belong to this party, we want to stay this way, it's somehow detrimental. But one thing I think, Mr. Liu, and I want to still insist is, I'm calling on our fathers that a traditional ruler is a custodian of tradition. A traditional ruler is that person where, when, like Javi said, I remember when we were young and we were growing, when there were village conflicts, someone has stolen, someone has done this, the case came to the palace. It is still the case. It is the fund who gives, and whatever the fund says, if it says, Dr. Ndimacho, you're guilty, it was law.
Okay.
And even when there were conflicts, inter-village conflicts, Mr. Liu, the fund came out, spoke, prepared the people, poured libation, and said, go to war and come successful. Okay. And we witnessed these things that were successful. But when funds start mingling, because Mr. Liu, like I said, when you are a traditional ruler, these are the office of a fund is sacrosanct. If they put you on a chair, I don't know how it works in other areas, but in an area where I come from, once you are a fund, if it is not you, you will not be there for long.
Okay. Ndobe Clinton is watching us from Lendi, somewhere behind our office here in Douala. Michael Kebuma says, good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm watching from mile 14 Dibanda. Ngala Evelyn Bongbimi says, I'm watching from Suza. All of you guys are watching us through our social media handle. Good evening to all of you who are watching on our Facebook page. Ben Teklo, Cha Christopher Su, Tumanting Robinson Nongo, and Brian Photo. Good evening to you. You're watching us from Germany, Brian Photo. Always watching Prime app. Now, when we get a chief or a say bishop, a father, or a man of God, a big man of God, who openly takes sides with a political party, how does that affect the harmony in their community?
It affects the harmony in their community negatively. Let me give you a recent example. Because if you look at let me take the Catholic Church, for example. The Catechism of the Catholic Church, if you go to Canon 285, paragraph 3, it talks about the fact that priests and bishops should not get involved in partisan politics. It's clear, partisan politics. And that also they are shepherds of everybody, and they are supposed to reconcile people to God and fight against social injustices. Which is now, in terms of this, there's a recent example that occurred in Nigeria in 2022, where a priest in Benue State, Reverend Father Hyson Alia, actually made his intention known in Benue State that he wanted to go in for governor under the Popular Actions, the PAP party, the APC party, the All Progressive Congress Party. And when he announced that he was actually stripped of his position, the bishop has communicated him as priest first of the Roman Catholic Church because of the fact that he has violated key canons of the church. But you know, as a reverend father remains a reverend father, because when you have been consecrated, you actually remain a reverend father, but not participating in churches serving mass. You cannot serve mass again. But he actually became the governor. He won the election, and he's the governor of the Benue State as we are talking. But if you look at the perception now that the people of Benue have about the church is negative, because now they are now blaming the church. They look him as the church. People don't care about him as Father Hyson, as Mr. Hyson or Governor Hyson. They look at him as a church. And so he has a role to play. It limits the church from its role in terms of fighting against social injustice, because whatever activity he carried out, people will say that it is the church that has trained him to do that. So that is enough reason for us to understand that the role and the objective of a priest a pastor and a prophet in a society is to fight against social injustice. The thing that cut across touches the common man regardless of their political parties. For example, if there's no electricity in Yakwata, Dr. Dimancho, it affects a man of NUDP, APC, UPC, Reform Party, which SDF. These are common things that the men of God are subject to talk about. That's their role. They think that it cut across everybody in the society, but not something that touches a particular person. Let me draw you reference to also what happened, like Dr. Dimancho said in South Africa, in apartheid. People may want to take him out of context. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said in one of his prominent speeches that let us not delude ourselves by singing hallelujah when our people are being killed on the street, when they are being massacred on the street. By that he was talking against apartheid, that people, social injustice were being perpetrated. He was not talking about a particular political party. He was saying that people are being killed. He was saying that we cannot delude by singing hallelujah when people are hungry. And it's the same thing in Cameroon. You cannot delude by singing hallelujah when roads are bad, you are quiet, when electricity is epileptic, when hospitals are not functioning, when the economy is in shambles. You cannot delude by singing hallelujah. But you can talk about those things without necessarily picking a political stand. You can work on the consciences of the leaders that be, and that's why in the Catholic Church there's a prayer that there's a bidding prayer that's always been done, where you say, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. Prayers is always been done. You say, for the government and the leaders of our nation, let us pray that God will touch their hearts so that they will do what is necessary for the people of Cameroon. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayers. That is their role. And let me now come now to the role of, if there are other issues there that we had seen occurring in Cameroon that priests and religious ought to have talked about without being partisan, and they were quiet. Albert Einstein once said, becoming evil doesn't necessarily mean that you will commit evil, but being silent when evil is committed makes you an evil man. That is, being silent when social injustices are committed makes you part of that perpetrator of social injustice. Albert Einstein. I will look at what has happened within the time frame. Most of our religions are instead going partisanly than looking at the issue about social injustice, because social injustice affect everybody. When there is traffic along Bonaberry Road to Rompoint, everybody's trapped. Whether you are Pentecostal, you are a Catholic, whether you are Binka, you are Messager, whether you are from Widikum, you are from where, everybody's trapped. 7 hours is 7 hours for everybody. Those are what we call the things that the men of God are supposed to say. And that is why you see, during the pre-colonial days, our chiefs were very wise. Like when the Germans, they came to Cameroon, there's what we call the German, before the German Treaty was signed, which was known as, our wish is that the white man should not penetrate into the interior. They must remain at the coast. They must give us their trust that we would trade with our bushmen. We will continue to get married as before. We will continue to do things as it was known as a King's Memorandum or the preliminary treaty. It was in that context that the chiefs were establishing their position, making the contextual West that have incorporated the modern day state that you should not penetrate with your culture, with your tradition. But now when you see this situation that is occurring now, what we are saying, what I am saying is that it is not forbidden for a chief to have actively involved in politics. Every day we are involved in politics. Man is a political being. Having two conflicting ideas brings in politics. Is a definition of politics. But when you take a particular side, it becomes a partisan politics. Chiefs have a right to say that our roads are not tarred. Chiefs have right to say that our bridges are falling apart. Chiefs have right to say that our airports are more in a third world condition. Chiefs have a right to say all those things. But they don't have a right to say that I will support SDF, I will support APC, I will support this particular party, because once you are in that chiefdom, the people have consecrated the power of the forefathers and given you that power that be our voice. Listen and be the open and the hearers of those who come to you. It is so sad that these days we see how some chiefs are trying to justify why they belong to a political party. How did we get to this position where chiefs are even senators? How do we get to this position where chiefs are even mayors? How do we get to that position? And that's why you see, like Prince, I'm sure it's Prince that said it, you see the respect for the sacredness of our tradition is dwindling. It's dwindling because somebody will tell you that, chiefs are, how... Okay. It's common these days to see how people are pointing fingers on religious authority on this, because it is politics has brought these people closer for them to actually say what they have to say. Before, you could not see somebody talk to a chief anyhow.
Okay. Hello, I'm the boy. I'm watching you from Bamenda, my 3. Good evening. I'm Adamu Laken, watching from Douala, Grand Anga. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Ngenge Edwin, watching from Tamulung neighborhood in Bamenda. I like the topic. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I like the program. It's educative. Besem Leslie is watching from Limbe, mile 4. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Cyril, watching from Mendong, Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and everyone in the studio. I really do enjoy this program, watching from Garwa. Good evening to all of you watching us from the far north and Adamawa regions. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Everyone in the studio. I really do enjoy the program, watching from Garwa. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening. I'm watching you from Fundong. I'm enjoying the program and it is very educative. I'm learning from it. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Reverend Kum Divine, watching from Bole Bakundu. Good evening to you, Reverend Kum. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm really enjoying the program. Please, Mr. Leo, these chiefs have sailed their conscience to the devil. If not, a lady was shot dead in Bamenda yesterday. Until now, none of them have said anything. If it was about the president, all of them would have been sending up motions of support. Same to the kidnapping of the Cameroonians on the National Road number 1 by the Boko Haram. Emmanuel is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Mr. Leo. I'm Moses from Muya. I love the program this evening. It's very educative. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Simon from Yaoundé. I'm enjoying the program. I enjoy the way Mr. Jarvis is expressing the heat of the people. Okay, you meant the heart of the people. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and all the panelists. The chiefs of Cameroon today have taken sides because the government plays a role to select them without following the traditions of their culture. I am B. Samuel from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo. This is Mr. Frank from Boya. Please, I have a question to ask for long. We have not seen Senior Barrister Apostle Ambe and the Kangaroo Man. We want to hear from them. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm enjoying the program. More grace to all of you in the studio, especially you for your educative programs to Cameroonians. Kudos to Dr. Prince Stanislas, watching live from the United Arab Emirates. More grace to you guys, okay? Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to everyone in the studio. Sometimes we don't have to blame those funds and chiefs. The truth is, if they actually refuse to go to the presidency, they will consider them like supporters of the opposition or supporters of boys in the bushes. Especially the case of the Northwest Funds in Cameroon is in a way that if you don't join the winning party, then you are considered as an enemy. Valerie is writing from Bamenda. Now, for Dr. Apostle Ambe Valentine, why you guys have not been seeing him because he is not in the country. Apostle Ambe is in Spain. He's been in Spain getting to 2 months now. That is why he's not been here. Far Evis Tayon also was in Nigeria. He's back, but we understand that he is a communicant for the Cameroon Renaissance movement, and the context that where they find themselves has not yet permitted them to start talking on TV until their position is clearly made known after the disqualification of their candidates. They have not yet started talking to the press, so we are also hoping that they will join us. As for Senior Barrister Ashu is there, is in Douala here, also involved with some other activities. Now let's get back to our traditional rulers and our religious authorities. Dr. Michael and Mancho, we see them don't know whether they are into politics or not. What should they be doing now as we walk towards October 12th?
Of course, as I said earlier,
if you were to advise a bishop today, a priest, and Pentecostal pastors themselves who have gone very silent with respect to, we don't know whether it's that God is not revealing what is happening, but most of them have gone quiet. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to concentrate on fostering peace in their communities. That is the first thing. Let the clergy foster peace in their churches, and let the chiefs foster peace in their communities. I encourage them to also concentrate on voter education. Now we are on the phase of going to vote. Let them also be able to tell people that we can be able to override the results of the past, whereby you have 6 million or 6.5 registered and have only 3 million voters or 3.5. That this year, as Christians, knowing what we are going through in the society, we are not supposed to stay indifferent, and that we are all supposed to go to the polls and vote on the 12th of October. I will also be asking them to sue for dialogue and reconciliation between the political parties. It is very, very important, especially those who are going to the polls. We have been talking about coalition here. I needed to see the chiefs and the clergy, they indulge into it. They are all their children. They are their spiritual fathers. They are their traditional fathers. I mean, they are supposed to sow peace in these people. Imagine the energy that the media spends, even here with you here, the energy you spend trying to talk about the coalition and trying to advise on what is supposed to be the civil society and all the other people, trying to advise them on the need for a coalition. Why is there this advice? This advice is there because all of us are being touched by what is happening in the society. If Cameroon is good, it is good for all of us. If it is bad, it is bad for all of us. And therefore, there is no issue in staying indifferent to the evils or to the degrading society in which we live in. Because if the economic crisis is low, is down, it is for everybody. If fuel prices are rising, it is for everybody. If there is no electricity, it is for everybody. If there is no water, it is for everybody. If there is no health care, it's for everybody. If there is no education, for everybody. So I think that it is incumbent on all of these, both traditional and religious authority, to indulge in education and tell the people, if you feel touched, if you feel enraged by what is happening,
the Holy Spirit will not go and vote.
The Holy Spirit, exactly. The Holy Spirit will not go and vote.
They have to go.
We had somebody who went to Electoral and said it's God who has sent him. And these are things which we discourage. Let us know that we need to effect the change physically. Stop talking about the Holy Spirit in terms of needs as we have now. So they have to indulge in this person, because they are looked upon as people of integrity. Imagine that when a priest or a pastor or a bishop speaks, it is so holy. It is as if they are vicars of Christ. You know that there is one person, or there are these people that people run to. When people have problems, they go to their spiritual leaders. This is a fact. At first, we used to have our traditional leaders that people went to. But since the traditional leaders took upon their partisan politics, this trust in them started shifting. And now the priests and religious leaders have remained the real purpose of people in the world. Where anyone has a problem, you run to confine it. And therefore, whatever they say is always referred to as gospel truth. And therefore, when they stay silent, they are keeping the Christian in confusion. It's like they're saying that the Holy Spirit is not talking. We are not talking about people who go prophesying. Prophesying is not actually what we expect. It is about telling people to do the practicals, to go register. And we have already registered, let them go and vote. Let them not lose their credibility or moral authority by doing something partisan. This is very, very important. But we understand with them too. I was going to talk about that. I think that, the issue of the classification, I'm sure that it is Prince Joel who talked about that, has also caused some chiefs to feel that they have to meet up with the chiefs who receive salary or who are in this category. But where I come from, a chief is a chief. There is not a first class or second class or third class. Whether you rule 20 people or 30 people or 50 people, you are the same chief as any other person. But the issue came by when there's this competition that started. And you know, there's one we call the public investment budget. Many palaces enjoy the benefits of public investment budget according to how they support the ruling government. Sometimes, yeah, we should talk about these things because sometimes their hands too are tied. Some policies, yes, you have public investment budget each year that comes, and you find that some chiefdoms are in the public investment budget. It is because there are these chiefdoms, these chiefs that are actually die-hard supporters of the system, which is not supposed to be so. Everybody is supposed, and I must talk again, when you talk about the consecration of bishops, the government usually presented, they give them a lot of stipends, of course, and in this, sometimes, you know, we are humans, and you cannot buy the hands that feed you at sometimes. So we think that we need to stay strong in some of this. So the advice I can give the chiefs and the religious leaders, of course, is that they should remain resilient because they have their credibility because of the respect that they command in the society. The religious leaders have their credibility because of the command they have in church. Who argues the pastor? Who argues the priest? Who argues the bishop? I've never seen that happen, except for, I mean, I don't know. This is very rare to see. This is to tell you that the voice of the people, of these people.
You're asking very, very pertinent questions. Yeah. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Bright, watching from Small Support Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo and Prince Joel. I am Guy Just. Okay, Mr. Leo and Prince Joel. I'm Guy Justin, watching from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Eboko Bright Lenya. I'm enjoying your program. I'm watching from Mundimba. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Egbe, watching from Kumba. Good evening to all of you. Now, he's raising an issue that, okay, as a bishop, as a man of God who talks to you, that is when you are in church. But once you step into the political battleground, you are now seen as a competitor to a fellow politician, and you are supposed to receive the blows. You are supposed to be dragged inside the mud, and you're supposed to receive what any other politicians receive. Is this also the difficult path on which some of these chiefs and religious authorities, when they get into politics, this is what this is the fate that awaits them? Because people now insult you've swindled, you have done this, you are now seen more as a politician and not the revered traditional ruler or man of God.
Dr. Nzimancho said something that if iron can rust, what will gold do? Mm-hmm. It's called from the General Pollock, of
the Chosa?
Yeah, Chosa, Geoffrey Chosa. In it, Chosa paints the poor person. There's a character that stands for what God is all about, and there's another moves from community to community preaching, and there's another one who the poor person. Now, Mr. Leo, you see what the funds and the chiefs, once you officially join politics, what you go through, it cuts across all angles. Mm-hmm. If I tell you the blows that as an individual that I'm sitting, I'm going through, you will not believe. He's no longer a journalist. That's not journalism. He is now supporting. It means that it becomes very, very difficult. Once you join politics, I'll bet you, Mr. Leo, that the example I gave, may so rest in peace, there are people who just left the church and said, oh, nobody can, you're doing a politician now. It means that they have this mindset that you are joining because we're living in a system where people believe. It's a general phenomenon. It's not only in Cameroon. People have this conception that politicians are liars. And that if a politician, they'll tell you that a politician...
Politics is not dirty game.
Not dirty game. They'll tell you that politicians are the only people who promise to build a bridge where there's no river. Now, once you are a traditional ruler, for instance, and you openly confess politics, Mr. Leo, I bet you will start needing the forces of law and order. You start needing gendarmes, police, if not Yaoundé, for your laws to be enforced within your community. Because you will even send someone that, okay, go and call Dr. Nzimancho that the phone is calling for him. As on 11 man, that's CPD man, no go me. I'm not gonna get time. You understand? The people you start being lightweight because the people feel that you are no longer that chief. Mr. Look, another point very simple is look at most of the funds and the chiefs who've left the northwest and the southwest because of the crisis who are no longer in their areas. There is a way the community views them. In fact, the people think that they no longer have a chief. But the one who has stayed his grounds, the people have the way to the view at him. I think that once you are a traditional ruler and you engage yourself into active politics, because Mr. Leo has said you can do politics, but you do passive politics. All of them, they vote. They have parties. Yes, it's a civic right. All of them have their parties within their hearts. My issue is when you come out and you say, we have. That we is, you are representing a community. A chief represents a people. It is not him. Jarvis gave a very good example. If Mr. Leo says, I have, who is that I? There is Mr. Leo who is an embodiment of a company. That's why in literature I call it synodicity. It means a part represents a whole. When Paul Biya meets Buhari, for instance, or Goodluck Jonathan, you will hear in journalism they'll say Cameroon meets Nigeria. Because Paul Biya is Cameroon. Goodluck Jonathan is Nigeria. But now when you have funds who leave and go and say that we have, it's the community you're representing. And within the community, Mr. Leo, the truth is, the kind of, people will not tell you openly. Why? Because, like I said, a fund is sacrosanct. Your subject will not tell you that they are angry. Because, like I said, a fund, a chief is it's something. First of all, you know that, Mr. Leo, someone will tell you that I'm a prince, I did not buy it. They do not buy princes. It means that it is talk less of the fund. It is something that within the community even there is a way they look at you. But now once you openly confess for a political party, there is a great problem and the people start reducing. They will not tell you. But that respect that they had for you starts dying off. It's the same with churches. Mr. Leo, when it comes to the number lay private churches, you may not have that impact. You may rather have more Christians. You pay good for you. If Jarvis were to open Jarvis and Sons International Ministries or Jarvis Fire Ministry, and Jarvis just a picture of Jarvis with Ferdinand Gongo, he would rather want him more Christians in his church and his quarter. Why? Because the people's one guy in the quarter has been doing some illegalities, looks at Jarvis already as someone who has connections. But now, when you are a body like, say, the Catholic, let me take the case of a bishop or an archbishop. You are not only representing a church. You're not a priest. You don't be father. You're representing a community. And now when you move,
entire diocese.
An entire diocese. Thank you.
And the church, the Vatican, the state of Vatican.
Okay. And that's why, Mr. Leo, you will see that during the talks that His Grace Cardinal Tumi had, there's a kind of reference that people were giving to it because they were not looking at Tumi who comes from Banto. They were looking at a cardinal. I think that, Mr. Leo, our priests, all of them, they have a civic right to vote. Our traditional rulers, all of them have a civic right. Because once you go into active politics, my dear traditional rulers, I respect you. Once you go into active politics, it is not good. And it is an indirect way of imposing to your community that this is where I belong. Automatically you should belong there, without which you may have small crimes that you commit in the village. The way they will even sanction you. Mr. Leo, let me give you a very simple example. You will notice that as a student, maybe when you were in upper seats, if you even dated a student that a teacher had an eye for, there is a way once you come late and Prince comes late, there is a way they look at two of us. It is not the same crime. If you're in a community and you just try looking at either a police officer's girlfriend or looking at a gendarme, The day they bring you just like you borrow 10,000 from Prince to that police station, my brother, you'll be treated more than someone who took 50,000 from another person.
Good evening, sir. Just to appreciate you for pointing out the errors. Maybe they can change. I'm got you, Lawrence. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I like your program. Colette, writing from Womb. It's high time the truth be told. Good evening to all of you watching us from Womb. Around 3 Corner to Nicom to Windu to Mile 50 and to Isu to Way to Zwa and everybody watching us from that area. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and I'm enjoying the program. Jarvis, you have sense. I am Collins, writing from Florida. Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu, and all the members of the panel. Special good thanks to Mr. Joel. I'm Bulu Hilary, watching from Yaoundé. My wish is that when our chiefs go for their visit, they should not say they are for the visit to represent their subjects, because their subjects belong to different political parties. Okay, it is about the program. Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Egbe, watching from Kumba. I disagree with the fact that traditional rulers should take part in presidential elections. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. It's a favor, Lyunga Mafani. I'm watching from Mondoni Oil Mill. I love this program. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Everyone in the studio. I'm briefly watching from Upstation Bamenda. This program is truly enlightening. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Thank you for such a sensitive and educative program. From Pastor Bernard Sona, writing from Kumba. Hello, my Media Prime. Watching from Yaoundé, Tekase. Love the program. Courage, Mr. Leo. The chiefs need to revisit their drawing boards. Tumenta Emmanuel Tanko, writing there. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Gordon, watching from Tico. I really love your program. Your guest speakers are really on point, based on the aspects of traditional rulers and men of God involving themselves in partisan politics. Good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard. I'm Gordon, watching from Tico. Okay. Hi, I'm watching from Lokpom Douala. Okay, I won't read your message. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Prince Joel. I'm Guy Justin, watching from Yaoundé. We're talking about neutrality here. Community representation. Do endorsements of by chiefs here, if they say we endorse funds, pastors, and imams, reflect the true will of the people, or would our community or the community is being manipulated? Even when they say we endorse, are they speaking on behalf of the community?
It doesn't. The sad issue is that it damages the reputation of the chief and its authority in the village. But in terms of the output, what is expected, it instead worsen the situation for a particular political party. Why am I saying so? The chief who is coronated upon the day of coronation is declared that we, the people of Noni, have decided that you should be our representative or the voice between our forefathers and the one unborn and the ones to come and the ones now, which means that you are talking on our behalf. The day you go and say you are endorsing a particular political party, you have just one vote. You don't have the vote of every villagers. You have just one vote. A chief has just one vote. So if a chief endorsement speaks on behalf of a village and gets the village to align behind a political party, then they should know that they have failed and failed woefully. I know they may be blaming it on the fact that their hands are tied. Nobody's hands is tied in this nation. I keep saying it in terms of politics, because people have been hiding under the pretext of hands are tied, hands are tied. Like you asked a very important question. Civil servants who are working under the state, haven't we seen civil servants who belong to opposition parties, who are campaigning actively to opposition party? The truth is God. You can only kill the teller and not the truth. When you kill the teller, the truth haunts you. When we say and we hide under the pretext that our hands are tied, we are indirectly saying that we are corrupt persons. Because, like Joshua in the book, in Joshua chapter 21 or so, when he was talking to the children of Israel, he said, if God is God, choose God. If Baal is Baal, choose Baal. Let us choose who this day we shall serve. As for me and my family, I stand with God. And I don't care whatever, which means that if the truth, Joshua 24, if the truth is the truth, if you believe as a chief that if you stand for the truth and they will not give you electricity in your village should not have whatever you will have. Stand for it, because the time will come when you will have that, and you will have it in abundance. Because there's something we say in Catholic Church that we always sing, that stand together for what you believe, work for what must be done, love each other in all that you do, see all my people are one. Which means that whatever, as a chief, traditionally Dr. Jimancho can agree with me on this, that a chief is a man that stands for honorable thing and just cause, as long as the people are protected. Which means that if you bring money and give the chief that wants you to do this against a community, he has the right to say no, that is not what he stands for. Because we believe that the ancestors are always correct. And that's why when somebody does something that is wrong, you take that person to the traditional prime minister, the traditional prime minister take that person to the traditional chief priest. There's an incantation that is done that they don't ask you, are you guilty or not? If you say I'm not guilty, the chief priest now will invoke the ancestors, which means that they are invoking the right sense of judgment. And today, if a chief endorses a particular candidate, he has no bearing in terms of the outcome of the election. The only bearing he may have is when he or she wants to use the village people to actually influence physically the outcome by mounting pressure. We saw that in Nigeria in the 2022 presidential election, where in Lagos State, for example, we saw where chiefs brought out masquerade and chased away voters in a particular polling station where they believed that it was a polling station that was going to vote for the Labour Party. We saw that in Nigeria, but we have not yet witnessed that in Cameroon. You can see that it plays a great role in how the people, and it diminishes the people's trust in the kingdom and in the chief, and also bring down the power of the ancestor, because no ancestor will work with the corrupt leader. I may be wrong on this. No ancestor will work with the corrupt leader. The power will leave you. You will be there, but power has left you. It is only when the right leader is put who will now invoke the. It's the same thing as religion, and that's why you see when a pastor comes and tells you that I've endorsed this particular candidate, your congregants, physically they will tell you that yeah papa. Let me tell you, sometimes even in church, when there are some homilies that we hear, we just say amen. You go to your house, by the time you reach your house, that's that man to I know did it. Because in your sacredness, it is, and voting is sacred. Let me tell you, there's power in that ballot. In that, the moment you enter that sacred room, a different spirit comes over you. That's why Donald Trump himself was not actually trustworthy of his wife in 2016. He had to ask to see whether his wife was actually ticking his ballot to tell you that in politics you leave no stone unturned. That is why we are saying that our custodians, like your question, does it affect or influence? It doesn't, but it instead, from a public relations standpoint and from the authority standpoint of the culture, it brings it down. And I would want to give another example, like what happened in the Gambia when Yahya Jammeh was actually chased out. When Yahya Jammeh lost the election because the chiefs were neutral. The chiefs decided to maintain. When I say neutral, I'm not talking about not participating in politics. I'm talking about neutral in terms of active partisan politics. Partisan politics means that the chief should not say, I support ADDD, I support PDDD, I support this. To that extent that a chief should not even hold a position of a senator or a member of parliament. Because in that community, you are the voice of everybody. And you are representing the ancestors, and the ancestors are apolitical and non-partisan. When we talk about that, an institution is apolitical. The role of a chief and a religious authority is apolitical. And when we talk about apolitical, simply means that they are not supporting a particular political party. Man itself is a political being. You participate in politics, and let me tell you, if endorsement does anything by changing the outcome, then you will see it reflected in 2018, where the presidential election were expecting put the chiefs that endorsed their candidate in 2018. We were supposed to have about 5 million or 7 million votes, but we had just the total general vote total 3 million, which means that your chief can only tell you there are things that Dr. Dumancho or Prince, when your chief tell you, will do it in the village when it comes to tradition. But when it comes to political issues, let me tell you, that's why you see most of our traditional rulers and our chiefs are losing respect. How do you see that in those days? How will you even stand and even talk about the name of a chief, or even echo they'll banish you in that land. But this day, politics has made everything, and even in church today, you see people are in church, pastor is preaching their moment behind, no, we don't go to their own money, no, we don't go to their own it. Before, that was a man they had in high reverence, and that's why Apostle Paul is reminding us that as Christians, we should understand that we must stand for what we believe is justice. As I always have a quote, and I will say that honesty is like virginity. When betrayed, can never be regained. And that's why our chiefs need to sit, and our traditional leaders need to sit in the comfort of their zone. And I salute what the bishops are doing. The bishop always have what is called the letter. We have the NEC letter, the National Episcopal letter, which each year they give a review of what is happening in the country, economically, politically, and they will advise. Like they said in their last one that they had in Boya, they said Cameroonians should go and register massively for this election. Cameroonians should do this. And one appeal I will have now, that if the chiefs, and they are not doing their role that we expect them to do now in this election, Dr. Dimacho said that in the beginning, they should start meeting these 12 political parties.
That is my next question.
Okay.
That's my next question, which has to do with... Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm really enjoying all your programs. They are so enriching, Mr. Leo. All those chiefs are members of the Regional House of Assembly. Reason being, they cannot compromise, failing to know that they are representing a village. That's really a disgrace. I was marveled when I say the young chief who do not even know why he went there. It's really terrible. Thank you for this program, Mr. Leo. I really doff my hat to the fun of Bafut. You will never see him in such gatherings. That's a man who knows what culture is all about. This is Armstrong from New Road, Bomenda. Good evening to you, Armstrong. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Special good thanks to Dr. Dimancho, the father of wisdom and the peace-loving man of Messager Prince Joel, not leaving out the central pillar, Mr. Jarvis. I'm enjoying the program, Mr. Morgan, watching from Bonaberry. Courage for the work. Mr. Leo, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Many thanks to the gentlemen on the panel. When the chief started receiving incentives from the government, and when you have a rally, you always see the pastors doing the opening and the envelope will follow. How can they do the contrary? Good evening, Mr. Leo. The chiefs and the pastors, they are not supposed to identify their political party that they belong to. They belong to all the political parties. Kwan Emmanuel Kant from Oku, but in Betua. Love your program. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm K. Emmanuel, watching from Boya, mile 16. Always enjoying your programs. Thank you. Good evening, sir. We are enjoying the show from Bomenda Bomsa family. Good evening to all the Bomsas. Good evening, Mr. Leo and the panelists. The chiefs began taking sides. Immediately, they started receiving salary from the government. Noel is writing from Douala Bonaberry. Don't know, it's very long. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The good program. I wish to ask this: do we practice democracy or monarchy? If we are in a democracy, then chiefs have a right to belong to any political party they choose, and so do men of God. If we want to exclude their option, then why fool ourselves with democracy? Chiefs cannot stay silent in a deteriorating economy just because they should avoid taking sides. You cannot exclude chiefs from politics when their function itself is political. Yeah, we cannot pretend to like culture so much only when it concerns the chiefs' political stance. Meanwhile, we neglect same culture in their favor. Rachel is writing from Lagos. Good evening to you, Rachel. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Joseph listening from Dubai, Likoko. We already know the truth about our country, what the citizens are going through, but we are afraid to speak it out openly for fear of unknown. Let all Cameroonians say, okay, I won't read the end. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Derek, watching from Kumba. I'm enjoying the program. Now, Dr. Dimacho, my question I want to ask is, would it also not have been very beautiful to see the traditional authorities, if all of them cannot come out, they have the House of Chiefs or some executive members of maybe the Northwest Funds Union, you have the Southwest House of Chiefs or something like that, come together, say 15 of them, selected clergy, Pentecostal, Catholic, Baptists, Presbyterians, call all the political stakeholders and say, hey, we are going towards elections. We want harmony, we want understanding, let them discuss.
Yes, I think that I said this at the beginning of the program, and I was wondering why there is this romance between the clergy and the presidency, the chiefs and the presidency, and then there seems to be this seeming lukewarm between the clergy, the traditional ruler, and the opposition parties. And I was wondering what is really happening. Because just for the sake of it, I think that this will have been done whereby they call the opposition leaders, bring them together. Yes, we also expect, it is vice versa, we also expect the opposition leaders to get to the clergy, because remember that for most of they are the opposition leaders who really need the support of these clergies the more, knowing the authority that they will in getting the electoral, the voters that they need. But we think that the clergies who are actually those who represent God, and they are for social cohesion, they are for peace, they are for development, they are for social justice and all of those, to be able to call, especially when we find some of these opposition parties leaders who are actually getting out of hand in terms of activism and all of those. I think that is their role, because once the country is at cross purposes in crisis, they are also their Christians that are going to suffer. And I think that the chiefs, the funds, have the responsibility, traditional and moral responsibility to do it. Remember, in my village, especially where I come from in the Northwest in general, a chief is referred to as them. It is the world. It is the village. This is one thing that people should know. It's also a part of education. That if I'm sitting and discussing with my chief or my phone, I don't say you. I say they, because that they represents the whole village, represents the whole community, and therefore this gives the authority that the phone wields. And that authority should not be misused. That authority is that authority that galvanizes. Let me even go further and even talk about the church, especially the Catholic Church that I know very well. Do you know that even the bishop of a diocese is called my Lord? He is called my Lord, and that is very, very significant. The bishop of an archdiocese is called His Grace.
And your right to there's my Lord and His Excellency.
That is right. We should have the Pope is known as His Holiness. The Cardinal is known as His Eminence. So you find that some of these adjectives are self-speaking. That's to show that they are people who represent God, and they are like deacons. They are like the bridge between the people and God. So I think that they have to play the role. I am not educating them. It's just that here we are reminding them of the role that they have to play, which they know very well. And I think that you should play that role very well. But when that role has, the lenses on through which they see, and it's a particular direction in which they see, that is what we condemn. They need to have lenses that see they are multidimensional, that see both the white and the black, they see both the opposition and the ruling party, so that it should not only be that they are concentrated on those. And even in the Bible, they say, if they think that the opposition are the missing sheep, in the Bible they talk about going to look for the one sheep that is lost, and they are supposed to call them, according to your question, they are supposed to call them and bring them together to be able to discuss with them. I know that in other regions, like the Southwest region, it is different, because in the Southwest region a chief is elected according to his wealth, according to what he has.
No.
Well, somebody started on this program and said it openly.
I would accept.
Well, I know this is my opinion. I take responsibility.
No,
Mr. Liu, I take because he was here on this.
It is false.
Maybe the person should come.
Please.
Yes, I've understood, but maybe the person should come and talk about.
No. We are not talking on behalf of that person. That person is not the spokesperson of the chiefs of yes. No. He was not the chief.
Of course. Okay, that's what I'm saying. That in some areas,
don't send a wrong signal.
You find some people who actually fend for the village. So that is what I'm trying to say. And therefore, in that perspective, we cannot blame them, because I'm coming to the fact that the chiefs are indulged in politics for a purpose. That's what I'm saying. And that Some chiefs are elected in order to go and look for projects. Some chiefs are taken because of the power that they have, that they can be able to bring development into a village. I don't think it is negative. It is something important also for them. It is not as if I'm derogatory towards some people. That is also how, even in the Northwest where I come from, we have had cases whereby some chiefs are enthroned, wrongfully, and we know tradition catches them. That is very clear. That's why when we say we have to uphold what we call tradition, we have to say things as they are. So when you take responsibility that is not yours, that is why you get on doing what is wayward. And that is why some chiefs blatantly get into politics, disregarding the plight of the people, disregarding the tradition, disregarding what the people think. And they think that, okay, it is only for them and their includes family. Remember that the chief never lacks. A fund never lacks. A fund is the responsibility of a village. A chief is the responsibility of a village. A religious leader is the responsibility of a Christian community. Because I remember there is a priest who asked sometime in church, you say that I eat the church money from the church coffers. You say that I eat money from the church. Do I work in government? Where should I eat? Should I not eat from this coffer? Where should I eat? I think this is what we are talking about. And therefore, we are also, as Christian and as subject, we are also responsible for what is happening, because we have some funds who have been abandoned. We have, Prince Joel, you are here. How much do you take care of your fund? This is what they used to happen. That each and every person needs to take care of the fund. I remember when we grew, we used to see people on the particular who carry firewood to the palace, who used to gather food and take to the palace. Now today we are in the world of politics, the world of modernism, whereby we deal with money. And the funds with so many wives need to take care of the wives. The funds with so many children need to take care of the children. And therefore, if you do social pressure too, I need to have cars, because he sees his other colleagues who are riding in cars, as well as other colleagues who are linked to the government who have been classified riding in cars. And you are there, you don't take care of your fund, and you don't give them their minimum that they need to live on. What do they have to do? What they do is now they tilt their attention and they say, where the mouth lives, that is where food in, and that's where they go to. So that's what we are saying. But we are saying that we need to come back to these moral issues. We need to come back to these practicalities of the society, whereby the fund should be somebody who assembles. The church religious leader should be somebody who assembles, because in church, in the country, we have all the parties in church. When you come and then we see you there, I'm happy even that, like the religious leader, they didn't say anything, partisan in that, which was very good, of course. But then we have had cases. I want to quote an example. In 1990, when the SDA, on the 26th of May 1990, yes, when the SDA was being launched, some 6 people died during that period. I want to say what was a fact. What happened is that some days later, there was a former Archbishop of Bamenda, Bishop Paul Vezikov, who organized an ecumenical service and called people to come and pray, actually for the souls of these people to go to heaven, to say that this blood has been spilled in Bamenda, it shouldn't happen again. Some few days later, another one was organized in Yaoundé by Bishop Jean Joua to say, and it was like a response to say that what you people were doing was, you are trying to segregate yourself, you are trying to blame the government for what has happened. So you find that there's this disagreement in church, and when the priests become polarized, when they become they bring this divide and rule issue, what happens? You find out that there is a lot of conflict in the society. Meanwhile, they were the people who were supposed to bring, instead of a converging force, a centralizing force, it becomes to be a centrifugalizing force, which of course they are supposed to play that role and play well as vicars of Christ. They are supposed to be central to what is happening. That I have a problem, the next person I confide in is either in my chief or in my spiritual leader.
I'm giving all of you who are watching this program tonight 10 minutes. Send us the name of the person you think will win these presidential elections. We want to do a poll. Just send a name of a person, the person you think will win these elections. Those of you who want, just send a name. We know that we have 12 candidates, including President Paul Biya, the 11 others, you know them. Just send a name of the person according to those who are selected, who is going to win these elections. Yes, you go with him as to the role that our chiefs are supposed to be playing, especially as we look forward to the October 12th presidential elections.
Of course, I agree entirely. That's what I've been saying since we started, that the chiefs have a role. First of all, a chief is a father. Doctor made mention, Doctor, you and I agree, we come from almost the same area, that in our area, Mr. Leo, there are certain animals that if you catch them, it comes to the palace. It tells you the sacrosanctness of the palace. You do not dare. If information meets the palace that you caught this type of animal and you did not bring, you bring it. Nobody comes after you. And Mr. Leo, it is also within the palace that when Kum Leonard must have excelled, even in journalism, even as a businessman, it is a phone who knights you. It's a phone who gives you a red feather. He tells you, Kum Leonard, you've done well. What you're doing is exceptional. So it tells you that this is like the president, not even like he's the president within that community, because he's the one who is referenced. And as he pleading with our fathers that, does he have that strength? Does he have that authority? Because even when you want to become fond, Mr. Leo, stories have been told of people who want to become funds. They say, no, if I become other side, mommy become other side, if I be a grandmammy no be, a auntie no be, do those things. It means that before those kingmakers get you and actually present you to the community that this is your fund, it's a whole process. And now, the funds still have this power. But what I think is, please, they should leave politics. Some of us can, you know, journalism, you can see the political journalism. We have colleagues who are into politics, Mr. Leo. Kijang Henry, for instance, is the National Communications Secretary of the Social Democratic Front. Nothing stops him. We saw Paul Maher recently with Akere Muna. He's a journalist. Those are so many names that we've seen. So many colleagues are into journalism, or rather into politics. But I think that as a traditional ruler, Mr. Leo, I'm still repeating and reiterating this fact that a traditional ruler is the father of the community. The people look up to you. And once you're a fond, you're not a fond to a Catholic. You're not a fond to a Presbyterian. You're not a fond to a Muslim. It's very true that the Muslims do have their ardors. But the fond is open to everybody within that community, Mr. Leo. And we are saying that it is not late. It is very true. Like one of the viewers said there, at times when you don't go for such meetings, Mr. Leo, I did say that the political atmosphere in Cameroon now is so tempting. It is tempting because when you don't go, of course they are going to label you a blackleg. The administration will say that if you did not come, it shows that there is something wrong. But now when you go, then nothing stops a traditional ruler from going to the Unity Palace. Nothing. It is okay. I have nothing with traditional rulers going to visit Gongo, going to visit Paul Atanganji like they did. Because they left Gongo and the following day they went to Paul Atanganji's office. Now I have nothing with that. But where I have an issue is when you go and you say, we the funds of the Northwest have given our support to Paul.
Maybe, but they are speaking on behalf of the funds and maybe not on behalf of the population. Huh?
No, Mr. Leo, I'm saying that. Mr. Leo, what I'm saying that
maybe the funds,
Mr. Leo, they are speaking on behalf of the communication. Mr. Leo, I'm saying that they are speaking on behalf of the people.
Of the people, they are funds.
You are a fund of a village. Even if you have 5 people, I know communities where in the Northwest where the population is up to 200 people, 150 people, you are a fund of that community. Where the population is just as small as it is, you remain a fund. A fund is a fund. And that's why you have all those logistics. Mr. Leo, in areas where we come from, the fund is referenced in such a way that there is a day, if a fund wants to engage even in agriculture, the fund just simply needs to call for some volunteers. And they'll come out in their number to go work freely. You're expecting nothing from the fund. So I think that it is high time that our traditional rulers went back to the culture, went back to where they were coming from. Jarvis has said something, and it's very important, Mr. Leo, that our funds and our traditions are so strong that when you start derailing, you may start invoking even the spirits that are not with you. You're just an empty vessel. You start moving and you're doing certain things and thinking that you still have that ancestral power. I'm not talking for all, but you may be moving and thinking that you still have that power, the ancestral strength, where you could cross over poison and nothing will happen to you. You could even get a cup of drink where there's poison and nothing happens to you, but you progressively you find your ancestors and those who made you living. We do understand, Mr. Leo, that this is a modern world. It's a modern world because gone are those days. Funds in those days, once you were made a fund, that was all. But nowadays, funds are civil servants. Nowadays, funds still go to school. Nowadays, funds are lecturers. Nowadays, funds are even uniform officers. They're funds. Okay. But I think that the fund should always, nothing stops a fund from being a civil servant. My issue is that thing of standing and saying that we have said that we belong to this party.
I'm asking all of you watching us, please send the name of the person you think should win the presidential elections this October, after October 12. Who are you voting for? Just send us the names. We want to do a poll. Tomorrow we'll see who is leading. We want to just send a name. We know that there is the CPDM party. We have the UNDP of Bello Buba Maigari. We have FSNC
of Issa Chiroma Bakari. You have the PAL of Ateki.
You have PAL of Ateki. You have the Social Democratic Front of Honorable Joshua Osei. You have the PCRN
of Cabral
Libi. You have the UDC of
Taimun Damjoya. Taimun, is that?
Okay, yes, so just send the names of those that you think. You have the FDC of Hiram and EMS and all of them. Just send one name of the person you think should win these elections. And yes, one last word to you as we wrap up.
Well, what I would say, I'll bring back a summary of what I said from the beginning, that chiefs are coronated by the people. When a chief is coronated, he's given the powers of the village, which means that he's the #1 spokesperson of the village. He is in persona tradition, or in persona forefathers, between the forefathers and the living, and also the village. So if a chief goes to endorse a party as chief, it means that he has taken the endorsement that was given to him as custodian of that village to a party which is wrong, which is not supposed to be, which is a desecration of the coronation. Because upon the day of coronation, you are giving the battle that you are the chief developmental person of our community. You have a right to go and cast your ballot. It is your civic right. People are confusing between the civic right of a chief and his partisanship. The civil right of a chief is to cast a ballot like anybody, like even Chief Justice Clement Tangana has a civil right to cast his ballot, which is sacred. But in terms of an endorsement, a chief coronated in a village goes and endorses a candidate. It is what we call repugnant in law to the natural principle of tradition and custom, which if we are in a modern state, it is an impeachable offense. It is not offense. In cultural terms, I don't know the God that are supposed to appease, because you have taken the powers of the ancestors given to you, conferred to you. You have a right to endorse a candidate as an individual. If you are doing that endorsement, you can say, okay, me as Chief Jarvis, I am endorsing you, Dr. Dimancho, as an individual, not as a village head of Guanangangwana. Let me call a village that does not exist before people start attributing me to bringing down villages. I will do that. The same thing with pastors and preachers. Men of God are supposed to be advocates against social injustice, which means that they have a right to talk about things that affect everybody. Water, security, electricity, hospital. These are things that affect whether you are a party A, party B. All of us are in the same form. That's why they are supposed to involve in politics, not partisan politics. And that was why Desmond Tutu in South Africa said, let us not delude ourselves by singing hallelujah, whereas our children are being killed on the street, which means that killing was affecting a general interest of everybody, not a particular party or KNC party. And that was why when Nelson Madiba Mandela came, Archbishop Desmond Tutu did not occupy any political position. There is no country in Africa, for my research, apart of Cameroon, where chiefs are having political positions in terms of senators, mayors, known in Africa. Maybe I still need to do another research. That's because as a chief, when you take a political position, it now limits your custodian ability, and power will leave you. Dear brothers, people of goodwill, Let us take this time to reflect and ask ourselves, if we have gone wrong, it is not too late for our chiefs to come back and make amends and see how we can foster development. Conclusively, nobody's hands is tied. Nobody's hands is tied in this country to do the right thing. If your hands are tied, honorably resign. That's why you are called honorable, because if it's wrong, you honorably resign. That's why I call excellency. If it's wrong, you are resigning. Don't say your hands are tied. When it comes to embezzlement, they embezzle. When it comes to taking of land, some people go and take people's land. Their hands are not tied in those areas. When it comes to do the right thing, our hands are tied. LIES, lies.
Okay, so the question I'm posing to all of you watching us, that is the prime polls. Prime polls for the 2025 presidential elections. Election day is October 12th, 2025. Who would be your choice for president? Who is going to be your choice? Who are you voting for on October 12th? Just send us that name right now. We're going to compile them and see what our audience actually think. It is true, we've talked about coalition, we've talked about what happened at Electoral, the Constitutional Council, and we are hoping to see the parties get onto the field for campaigns. But as you speak and you are watching us, as we speak, you guys are watching us, who is your candidate? Who is your preferred candidate for these elections? Just type his name or party and send to us right now. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Just permit me say this, to say that it is my wish to see the religious leaders collaborate with the traditional leaders. Remember that the traditional leaders are like the landlords of the church, and therefore no church implants anywhere without the authority of the traditional leaders, because they are called the shepherd. And that is why when President Paul Biya came up to power, one of the things that he did was he went around the country trying to actually create this cohesion, this collaboration with the chief, where he becomes the fun of fun, the chief of chief, the nomgi of nomgi, the lamido of lamida. And therefore, it is my goal, it is also my fight. Remember, my latest publication is about Father Osi and the village spirits, whereby I'm seeking for this collaboration between the Christian religion and the African traditional religion, which of course we have been talking like this, and the religious leaders of each religion and the traditional leader, they should also have something like a union, a meeting where they also sit and decide certain things, because they are supposed to collaborate, and they have been collaborating. When the church came in, they collaborated with the chiefs and the funds, and therefore this collaboration is supposed to go beyond just getting lands, beyond just monetary stuff, but you have to go further for the interest of the people. Remember that many villages are suffering because of this disarray that they have amongst the church and the tradition. And therefore I feel that when this collaboration is solidified, we will find that people will actually have way to lay their problems. They should form a committee, an association of traditional and religious leaders, and we think that things will go better, so that if they're invited, that I usually do in the presidency, I think that they have a concerted voice. They will go in one voice. They should be able to discuss behind the scenes before going, and therefore they're moving on, one for all and all for one. I take this opportunity to greet all our friends who are watching us and those who appreciate what we do, and we just say that the real appreciation will come when we come out en masse in October and vote to choose our leader. Remember, you may be lured to take a bag of rice, you may be lured to take a box of sardine, you may be lured to take 2,000 francs, but remember that you will not eat that for the next 7 years. Think about that and don't go complaining when it happens afterward, but be wise. I am of a civil society. I don't ask you to vote for this or for that. I ask you to use your conscience, to use your own judgment, and vote for who you think will bring development according to what we have seen in the past 7 years. Those who have been coming towards you, that is somehow you are going to judge. You can never say that you don't have a candidate. You will always have a candidate, be it individual or it's in a coalition. You always have a candidate. At least you have somebody who has touched your life, or the life of your brother, or the life of your sister, and somebody you can remember, or somebody you have heard doing things around in other areas. Rather pray that that person should extend those things to your area. And of course, in that way, we will be forming a just and equitable society for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you for coming, Prince.
It's always a pleasure to be on board, Mr. Leo. We want to still tell our traditional rulers that we're not giving them lessons, but we're rather proposing that we are subjects, and we are thinking that the respect that we have for you people, we think that once politics comes inside it's going to reduce. So stay aloof of politics. Of course, you're going to vote. Keep it within your hearts and do not show it. And to all our religious authorities, we understand that in turbulent moments you intercede for us. We understand that during trial moments you intercede for us. Like when the crisis was at its peak, we saw religious bodies that came together to pray, and at one time they even struggled to hold the Anglophone All Conference, where I saw people like His Grace, Cardinal Tumi Meso, rest in peace. I saw people like the former moderator of the Presbyterian Church, Right Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, and I also saw the Imam of Boy and other imams. It means that they wanted to intercede for us. That said, Mr. Leo, October is not far, my dear brothers and sisters. I put up something on my Facebook page today now saying that most people get to me and they are like, we will not vote because we are waiting for a coalition. And others are saying that we are waiting for a candidate to give us an order. My dear brothers, take it from me, Mr. Leo. He's always creative. He has brought up something like, who do you think is potential? I think it's just a way to spur you. It is just a way to trigger you, so much such that you should know that, my brother. Take this from me. If you do not vote, someone will vote. And at the end of the day, even if it's 10 people who voted, they will count the 10 votes. So just go out there and cast your votes once it comes October ends. You're the one who wants the change. I want the change. And let's see what comes out of it. With that, I want to send special greetings to the peace, ever-loving people of Mr. J subdivision. So many of them watched today, and I was reading the messages to my classmate, Chair Bridget. I didn't know you were watching from Bafusam. And of course to you, my own brother and friend, Bulu Hilary, and to a host of all the Mr. J people who took time, energy, and resources to watch Prime. I told you, Mr. Kumlenat, that you have a strong fan base in Mr. J. The last time I was in the village, I did tell you, and this time around, that I'll still be going to the village. Before October 12th, of course, we're always going to ensure that those, your fans who are in Mr. J and in all the 5 subdivisions and make up Donga Mantun, and that if they have their own opinions, Mr. Leo, we're going to assemble them and always channel to you, so they should feel that my Media Prime is their own home and that this is their home. Thank you once more, Mr. Leo. It was a privilege.
Okay, thank you too for coming, Jarvis.
Thank you, and special good evening to my brothers and sisters watching us across the world, those in Munya, those in Way Village. When I say brothers and sisters, I'm talking about all the viewers, the televiewers, because you are my brother, you are my sister. As the gospel says that whatsoever you do to the least of my brother, that you do unto me. Good evening to you all.
Okay, we want to thank all of you who have taken up the time to watch this edition of the program. The question I'm leaving you with is Prime Hour polls. We're going to be doing this till elections. Election day is October 12th, 2025. Who will be your choice for President of the Republic? Just send the name or the party. So far, we are receiving, some say it's Joshua C., others say Akeremuna, some say President Paul Biya, and some say my choice was Maurice Kamto, but since he's not more on the list, I'll go for Joshua O.C. So just keep them coming, and we thank you all for watching. We're so blessed having you guys follow us every evening. Tomorrow is another rendezvous. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.